When one recalls the Second World War, especially its steel-clad pages, something new always emerges. Sometimes it is a flash of heroism, when an ordinary boy from a village suddenly becomes a legend. At other times, a technical curiosity that seems like a joke of fate, or simply an incredible story about how people, machines, and circumstances intertwine in an enormous knot of chaos. And amid all that armored madness, there is a machine about which, curiously, people speak with a kind of warm smile, although, given its nature, it would be more appropriate to cross oneself, or at least shudder. The SU-152, known as Zveroboy, Beast Killer, a machine that was born almost by accident, lived briefly, but left such a deep mark that 80 years later, people still wonder, how did that happen? Because war is not just strategies and maps. It is also those moments when everything goes wrong, but in the end, turns out better than planned. Irony, right? As if history itself winks, here's a surprise for you. Let us delve deeper into this story, as if flipping through an old photo album where each page is a layer of dust, blood, and unexpected twists. The narrative began in those somber months when the Red Army was just getting back on its feet after the horrors of 1941 to 1942. Imagine it. Stalingrad was cracking at the seams, like an old suitcase stuffed with too many memories. Troops fought for every floor, every house, every room. The city had become a labyrinth of charred walls and snowdrifts, where snow mingled with brick dust and the air slashed the throat with its acrid smoke. Soviet soldiers, those lads from Siberia, Ukraine, and Moscow, were not just fighting the Germans, they were battling hell itself. And in that infernal atmosphere, where every day could be the last, the troops finally closed the encirclement around Paulus's Sixth Army. A colossal event, significant, a turning point. It was the moment when the whole world held its breath. But war is like that. One victory is always followed by new problems, like puddles after rain, in which one can slip. One of those problems was the German novelties. Heavy tanks, self-propelled guns, fortresses on tracks. All of it quietly rolled onto the Eastern Front, as if someone up above had decided to test the Red Army in the most twisted way possible. The Germans, those meticulous types, always liked to surprise. Here a machine that looks like a house on wheels, there another that roars louder than a bear. The new German machines made an impression. They stuck in the mind like an unexpected punch to the gut. Tigers, Panthers, those Ferdinands without machine guns. They looked imposing, no doubt about it. And while soldiers on the front line conducted field tests of these beasts under conditions that, frankly, were far from ideal, under snow, in mud, under fire, the command racked its brains. What to counter this sudden arsenal of costly German scarecrows with? Because the front does not wait. It demands solutions here and now, or tomorrow might not come. But, importantly, this whole story did not begin as a tank hunt. No. The Soviets were not rushing through offices shouting, "Give us guns that can blow up tigers." It was all much more prosaic, almost like everyday life. A practical problem needed solving. The front was drowning in the lack of mobile heavy artillery, the kind that can approach, fire on a fortification, demolish a house, flush out a machine gun nest, support infantry in the city. And all without horses dragging the gun through the snow as in the 19th century. Artillery existed, but mostly it was towed. And towed artillery on the 1943 front in a city was like hauling a television on a cart upstairs. Possible, but the pleasure was dubious and the repair costly. Imagine it. Gun crews drag their behemoth through shattered streets, under fire, and then, boom, an unexpected mortar barrage, and goodbye gun. They abandon it because extracting it is impossible, especially in winter, when snow reaches the knees and the cold bites at the fingers. Infantry fought amid ruins. Tanks got stuck in wall debris, and heavy gun teams, caught under sudden fire, simply left their positions. Because war is not heroism in every second. Sometimes it is survival. For Soviet commanders, it was clear. A big, hammer-like argument was needed. Quick, simple, and effective. And there, as if to an old song, little apple, the idea arises. Take a proven and powerful howitzer and mount it on some existing tank chassis. Without frills, without long debates, without endless meetings. Simply assemble a Frankenstein edition, but one that works. The irony is that in peacetime, this would have taken years. Blueprints, tests, commissions. And here, war teaches improvisation. And yes, if you imagine that creating a combat machine requires years of thoughtful engineering, forget that for a moment. Because the Soviet engineers of 1943 did it in 25 days. Seriously, 25. One could say it was a kind of world record in combat steel assembly. They took the chassis from an already proven machine, installed a casemate, bolted on the gun, brushed off the dust, crossed themselves, and sent it for testing. The tests went something like, well, it seems to hold. Does it fire? It fires. Then it's good. And that's it. In a couple of weeks, adopted into service. In a month, in production. As they say, quick steps toward a bright future. In 10 months, they assembled around 700 units. Today, production chains are built with diagrams and graphs, but back then the scheme was simpler. It needs to be done. We'll do it. Irony? Of course. While the Germans polished their perfect machines, the Soviets assembled with what was at hand, and it worked. But let us return to the machine itself. The SU-152 was extremely heavy, like an elephant after lunch, and the creators did not even try to hide that it was built around the gun. Because the gun was the true star of this steel scene. Projectiles like sacks of potatoes, high explosive shells with such a charge that it was not a shot, but a little festival of destruction. At range, most targets simply vanished. No wall left, no pillbox, no little house with a red roof that unfortunately crossed the intersection. True, loading that monster was difficult, the space tight, and the gun had to be traversed besides. In general, the rate of fire was not the fastest, and often even lower if the crew did not hurry for obvious reasons. No one wanted to accidentally insert something where it should not go during the gun's recoil. But honestly, the SU-152's rate of fire was not that important, because if the machine hit, the question of a second shot usually resolved itself. One strike, and goodbye, problem solved. Now imagine it. July 6, 1943 arrives. The Kursk salient, a gigantic battle that everyone knows, the largest tank engagement in history. The ground shakes under the tracks, the air thick with smoke. Soldiers pray to whatever they can. The new SU-152s are in ambush, like hunters in the forest. The Germans advance with their Ferdinands, those very ones that, according to documents, were supposed to be practically invulnerable. A ton of metal, armor like a wall, technology that German engineers viewed with pride, like a collector's coin. But in war, it often happens that someone's expectations mix with reality as quickly as sugar in boiling water. And there, at 800 meters, boom! The first Ferdinand skyrockets like a candle. It exploded not because the armor was penetrated, but because the high explosive shell simply struck in such a way that inside everything living turned into a tragic mush. The armor seemed intact, but the crew was not. Armor plates shift, fasteners tear off, hatches fly away. The Germans, to put it mildly, were surprised. There were several cases where the shock wave overturned other tanks, as if the machine decided to play dominoes. The SU-152 self-propelled gun did not actually penetrate the armor, but it was not necessary. It struck through the armor, with physics, pressure, vibration, with everything possible. Thus was born the legend of the Zveroboy. The irony is that the machine, conceived for dismantling fortifications, suddenly became a hunter of beasts. Those very tigers and panthers that the Germans considered kings of the jungle. Who would have thought? Neither engineers nor generals. War decided for itself. Of course, it must be clarified. At night, the Germans pulled out damaged but unburned machines, installed another crew, and at dawn back into battle. That is why Soviet fighters were later strictly ordered. While the tank has not ceased to be a tank, fire. Be kind, finish the job. And the crews did. In those battles under Kursk, in the regiment holding the northern flank, the lads on the SU-152s were in reserve, waiting for the moment. And when it came, they struck in such a way that the Germans remembered it for a long time. One veteran recounted later, "We sat in the bushes like partisans, and those hulks crawl forward. Shot and silence, only smoke." Simple words, but behind them, a whole life. However, that was not the end of the machine's strange advantages. The SU-152 proved very useful in the city. Separate assault groups loved it because it could simply sweep away a problematic position. Sniper in the attic? The house vanishes. Machine gun nest in the basement? No basement. The task was solved with a simple trigger pull. Of course, working like that was only possible under infantry cover, because the SU itself was far from invulnerable. German guns cracked it like nuts at long ranges. In distant duels, it always lost. Too slow, too inaccurate. But in close combat, when the distance is less than 400 meters, the SU-152 turned into a steel battering ram. Infantry goes ahead, tanks get stuck at fortifications, and there, from around the corner, it emerges. Like an older brother coming to settle scores. Strike, and no fortification. Now let us talk about the people inside, because the machine is not just steel. It is the crews who lived in conditions close to a communal apartment after New Year's. Cramped, stuffy, smelling of smoke, ammunition, and fuel next to each other, almost no space. The driver was seated in such a way that he could only get out if the gun was in a favorable position. That is, in battle, he had to hope that fate was kind that day and a shell did not hit where it should not. Imagine it, 5 people in an iron box, where every shot is like an earthquake. One veteran, already after the war, found his old machine on a pedestal in a small town and wept. "It's her," he said, "the one that went through hell with me." Irony? The machine that sowed death became a monument to life. There were also women in the crews. Yes, war does not distinguish genders. One of them, Alexandra Samusenko, commanded a tank company, received an order because her team knocked out 3 German Tigers. She was in similar machines, and her story is a reminder that heroes come in all forms. The crews of these machines sat in iron boxes where every blow, every splinter could be the last. But they did their job. And they did it in such a way that decades later these machines became legends. Not for the shine, not for the speed, but because in history's darkest hour, they were exactly where needed. Despite all the difficulties, the machine served. It did what it was created for. And did it so effectively that when the base platform aged, the idea was transferred to a more modern one. Thus appeared the SU-152, improved, reinforced, more reliable. It became a true battering ram in the late battles, including Berlin. In urban combat, the SU-152 advanced alongside automatic riflemen, sometimes accompanied by a sniper or flamethrower to repel Panzerfaust wielders. The new version became an instrument of surgical destruction. It toppled houses, broke fortifications, pierced defense knots. The machine gun on the roof also became that argument the Germans hated so much. From above, from windows, from attics, everything was resolved with a burst. Let us recall one case from the late battles. In Poland, already near the end of the war, an SU-152 crew drove the machine through shattered streets, and suddenly, ambush. Germans with Panzerfausts. But infantry covered, the sniper took out one, the flamethrower another. The machine struck, and the path was clear. Veterans joked later, "We're not tankers, we're cleaners. We clean everything that gets in the way." The irony is that these cleaners changed the course of history. But this story is not eternal either. After the war, assault guns faded into the past. The era of main battle tanks arrived. But the legacy of the SU and ISU remained. The memory lingered of how chunks of steel and gunpowder suddenly became something more, a weapon that changed the course of battle. The machines were withdrawn from service in the late 1950s, but they stand in museums, on pedestals, reminding us. And here we return to that somber but important thought. Machines like the SU-152 were created in desperation, by the hands of people who understood there was no time and the enemy was strong. They were made quickly, crudely, even primitively. They were dangerous to enemies, and to their own. And perhaps that is what makes their story so important. Because sometimes a casual effect, the strike of a high-explosive shell not intended for tanks, turns a machine into a legend. Sometimes iron is born in haste and at the limit, but still becomes a symbol. And of course, behind every symbol are people. Those same lads who sat in the cramped casemate, who lifted shells like sacks, who listened to the steel vibrate after a shot. Their fates are part of this story. And the machine, and the people, and the war. Everything intertwined, leaving a mark. When one recalls all this today, perhaps it is worth not only marveling at the power and effectiveness, but remembering, legends are not born on blueprints. They are born where ordinary people do the impossible. Here is that story of the heavy, self-propelled gun that unexpectedly became the scourge of tanks. A machine whose biography was short but brilliant, like a shot. A machine born of desperation and turned into a symbol of steel resilience. And yes, sometimes the irony of history lies in the fact that a weapon created not for tanks turned out to be the best hunter of those very tanks. War rarely acts logically. The main thing is to remember, and the people, and the machines, and the lessons they left. Because in the chaos of those years hides something eternal, humanity's capacity to survive, improvise, and prevail, even when everything is against it. And if this story teaches anything, it is that even in the darkest corner one can find light. Or, at least, a good shot.